Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss the topic canons of taxation. Under this particular topic, we will be discussing what is canons of taxation, what are canons of taxation, and the canons of taxation given by Adam Smith, the father of economics, and the additional canons of taxation also. We are going to discuss one by one. So we will start the discussion with what is actually the canon of taxation or canons of taxation. So canons of taxation is nothing but the qualities or attributes of a good taxation system. We can call it as canons of taxation. So basically, Adam Smith, he was the first economist who discussed and elaborated the concept of canons of taxation, and all his views on what these canons of taxation is in alignment with classical economic philosophy. You know that classical economics philosophy, what is the role of taxation? And in classical economic philosophy, they consider tax as a necessary evil. And they do believe in the philosophy of laissez-faire, wherein the role of the government is actually minimal. And so, which means that they are vehemently criticizing the concept of what heavy taxation. The government which tax least is considered as the best government for them. So, whatever principles or canons Adam Smith framed, which is clearly in alignment with what the classical school of philosophy, and we'll be discussing each canons of taxation one by one. All these canons are considered as good attributes or good qualities of a taxation system or a tax structure. So the first canon of taxation is canon of equality, and the second one is canon of economy, third one is canon of certainty, and fourth one is canon of convenience. So these are the four canons given by Adam Smith, and we will discuss one by one. Apart from that, the additional canons of taxation also we are going to discuss. The first canon of taxation is the canon of equality. The canon of equality, here you just have to understand there is a distinction between the concept of equality and equity. Equality means that the burden of taxation is actually should be equally distributed among the taxpayers. Wherein equity means that the tax burden should be based on what the ability to pay principle. So basically, the classical approach, they believe in capitalism, wherein they always advocate that a good tax system always follow the principle of equality, which means that the tax burden should equally distributed among all the citizens, irrespective of their financial capacity. So that is what the canon of equality, and the ability to pay principle, they are not bothered about the ability to pay principle, but basically ability to pay principle, or it is coming under the principle of equity, wherein the tax burden should be distributed based on what the capacity to pay. But the concept that is promoted by and enunciated by Adam Smith, it is based upon the principle of equality, which means that the tax burden should be equally distributed among the people. That is what the canon of equality, which he considered as one of the good attribute of a taxation structure. The second one is canon of economy. So canon of economy here, it means the administrative cost of the taxation. So according to him, a good tax system is having less administrative cost. A good tax system is always having a less administrative cost, which means that we can consider good taxation as good if the collection of taxation or the administrative part of that particular taxation system is comparatively less. You take the example of India, wherein we do have the income tax and the GST, that is indirect tax right now. Wherein the administrative cost of indirect tax or GST right now, it is after implementation of GST, it is comparatively less, wherein the administrative cost of what the direct tax, it is comparatively high. Which so a good tax structure or system is having less amount of what administrative cost. So that is also considered as the second attribute of a good tax structure. The third one is the canon of certainty. As the name indicates, the tax amount should be certain. There should be a certainty in terms of the amount to be paid, the manner in which the tax should be paid, the quantity to be paid. There should be a proper certainty, clarity to the normal common layman. So a tax system which is transparent enough, which is easy, which is easy to understand, which is what if the people are having a clear-cut idea regarding the amount to be paid, the manner of payment, the quantity to be paid, then we can call that taxation structure as a certain one. I'll give you an example of the Indian context itself. We can have the Indian example itself. We do have what the direct and indirect tax. Indirect tax in the form of GST, wherein it is included in the price, IGST and SGST. So the amount to be paid is certain. It is very clear. It is included in the bill, and everyone knows the amount, what amount to be paid, the manner also. They can pay that. It is very clear. But wherein if you take the indirect direct tax, if you take the direct tax component, or you can take the income tax itself, people are still confused. They don't have a clear-cut idea of the amount to be paid, the exemption that they are going to get, the manner in which they are going to pay the amount. All those things are unclear. So which means that in context we can say that the direct tax is not having the not satisfying the principle of certainty, wherein the indirect tax or GST is satisfying the principle of certainty that we can able to say as an example. Then next is canon of convenience, which is clearly in alignment with what the third canon, that is canon of certainty. As the name indicates, it's whenever government is imposing a taxation, it should be levied in such a manner that it is easy and convenient for the taxpayer to pay it. So when it should be easy, it should be convenient for a taxpayer. So if you look at all these canons that is given by Adam Smith, it is from what individual perspective, whether it is convenience, whether it is certainty, whether it is economy, whether it is equality. It is from the individual perspective, and that's why in the beginning of the discussion itself, I told that the whatever canons given by Adam Smith, which is clearly in alignment with classical school of philosophy, wherein classical school consider tax as a necessary evil. They are not in support of taxing individuals. Okay, these are the four canons given by Adam Smith, and if taxation is having these four canons, according to him, he is considered such kind of tax as a good tax. Now, along with this, the prominent economists also suggested some additional canons along with Adam Smith four canons of taxation. The first one is canon of productivity. As the name indicate, whenever government is introducing a tax, it should be productive enough. And according to the advocates of this particular canon, they argue that it is desirable to have a few taxes than that of a large number of taxes. So there will be a few taxes in the sense that government should focus on few taxes which yield maximum revenue than that of large number of taxes which yield small amount of revenue. So the taxation should be based on the productivity. Government should focus on a few number of taxes which yield maximum amount of revenue to the government. And second additional canon of taxation is canon of elasticity, which means that tax should be elastic or flexible, which means that government can able to increase or decrease taxation on the basis of the requirement, on the basis of circumstances. If a taxation is elastic, government can be able to change the tax slab, tax rate accordingly. That is what the canon of elasticity. Then canon of diversity. Canon of diversity is that it is in contradiction with the canon of productivity, wherein canon of diversity argues that government has to focus on large diversified sources of revenue than that of focusing on few taxation. Government should diversify the revenue sources so that in case any particular situation, if government is not able to generate revenue from the major sources, the government can balance with this diversified revenue sources. Then the second last one is canon of simplicity, which means that whatever taxation that government is going to implement, it should be easy, it should be simple to understand for the common layman. And the last canon of taxation is nothing but canon of coordination. The canon of coordination is nothing but the coordination between the center and state government. There should be a proper coordination between the center and state government with regard to the implementation of tax, with regard to the execution of the tax, with regard to the collections of taxation. So these are the canons of taxation given by Adam Smith, and Adam Smith is given for canons of taxation, which is clearly in alignment with the classical school of philosophy, and additional canons of taxation, which were governed by the prominent fiscal economists. This is all about the canons of taxation.